everyone, I'm Stephanie Weaver. Welcome back to the Blue and Yellow Kitchen. In each episode, I make a dish inspired by a new book while talking to its author. Today's book is Who's Your Daddy, which came out on March 1st, and I'm making metemgee, Guyanese coconut stew with root vegetables. I'd like to welcome Arisa White, author of Who's Your Daddy. Welcome, Arisa. We're so happy to have you in the kitchen.
Thank you for having me, Stephanie. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so give us an overview of the book because it's a
Well,
little
sort of.
different than the typical book. So give us the overview.
Okay. So sort of the marketing language for it is a lyrical, genre-bending coming-of-age tale featuring a queer Black Guyanese American woman who, while seeking to define her own place in the world, negotiates in a strange relationship with her father. That is me. This book is a poetic memoir based on my estrangement from my father, who at the time I did not know and did not see for over 30 years.
So thank you for that. And I would say that that is I would not have been able to describe this book. So whoever did the marketing copy did a great job because it is
Yes.
poetry and it is a memoir, and it's like nothing else I've ever read, which is why I'm featuring it. So tell us a little bit about the inspiration for the book. It kind of has a couple of settings, so what those settings are, and anything readers need to know kind of to prepare them.
Started because of my mother. It was my 33rd birthday, and my mom asked me if I wanted to write my father in Guyana because she just recently received an address to contact him. And I didn't know what I would say. You know, the last time I saw him, I was 3 years old. And at that point, as a 33-year-old, I was a grown woman living in California at the time. So basically, I just started writing what is called epistolary poems, which are poems that are essentially letters. And so those letters were all addressed to my father, named Gerald. And so it started off like that, and I just kept on writing, and that became a way to document my life for him. It was also a way for me to begin to think about how do I fill this absence with my own presence. And so I just began pretty much sharing everything about my life, things I was listening to, books that I was reading, films that I was watching, um, reality TV shows that I was sort of obsessed with as well. And so that started the book. And then I was able to then get a grant, which allowed me to then self publish those epistolary poems, as well as hold these like workshops in the San Francisco Bay Area for other people to write letters to their absent, estranged fathers, as well as patriarchal figures, because it was during the time of the 2016 election. Um, and then also with the grant, I was able to go to Guyana and meet my father. And that gave me an opportunity to share those epistolary poems with him, as well as tour Georgetown, because we stayed in Georgetown, where his family was based, as well as I got an opportunity to just, sightsee and see all of the local attractions.
That's such a phenomenal experience, and yet the book is different than that. Like it covers that ground, but it also is different than that. So just to be clear, where Guyana is, it's on the northern edge of South America on the Caribbean, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
on the
Okay.
Atlantic, yeah, the
On the
Atlantic
Atlantic side.
Ocean
Yeah.
side.
Okay. So on the Atlantic Ocean side, so think of it as like the edge of the Caribbean. And I didn't know anything about Guyana. I don't really feel like I get poetry or understand poetry. So when the book was sent to me and I realized a couple pages in that this was not a traditional memoir, I kind of said, okay, I'm just gonna go with the flow. I'm gonna just sort of surrender myself to this book and see where it takes me. And I'm so glad that I did because I don't understand poetry. You still want to read this book because it's incredibly beautiful. The language and the word things that she creates, or these images that she creates with so few words, is just fun. It's just an incredible experience to read. So that's why I wanted to feature it because it's not anything like I've ever read before, which is not easy to do nowadays. And I also felt like I went on this journey with you. So I wanted to thank you for taking me with you to Guyana and into your life and your experiences. And I feel like I got to know you and your partner. And so it was a really beautiful experience and very moving, very powerful.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for going on the journey. And
Yeah.
I think I wrote it like this so that I could introduce people to poetry. It's like it's a blend of poetry, it's a blend of prose. There's quotations from like scholars. So there's a lot of weaving of different elements so that it is accessible. It doesn't have that kind of abstraction that poetry is often known for.
Yeah, absolutely. So the recipe I'm making today is authentic to Guyana, and I've made it 3 times. Did some research online. There's a wonderful blog actually called metemgee that by Althea Brown that I used. She offers a couple different methods, and I'll include the link. But I've written up the recipe for my blog as well. So if people want to, mainly because I talk about the ingredients a little bit and the detail of how I made it. And we chose it because it's something you ate on your visit to Guyana to find your father. So I've asked Arisa to read a short passage. And while she's reading, I will bring the book to life with the metemgee. And we'll talk about the recipe in a little bit more detail after she reads. So set up what you're about to read, how old you are, kind of where the scene takes place. And then we're going to have you just go ahead right into reading it.
Okay, so this is a scene, a section from the opening sort of section of the book. There's like a total of 4 sections. This is the childhood time in my life, Brooklyn, New York. I'm about 13 years old, and I'm talking to my friends about their fathers. What I do in this section is that I collage some of those letters that I received, and I use it as dialogue between me and my friends. Friends never really ask about fathers. To ask is to sometimes signal a personal failure. But when we feel triumphant from figuring out how to play handball with all 3 of us, it comes up. Nicole, with her round cheeks, dimples dipping into them, undoes, then meticulously fastens the Velcro straps on her Reebok classics. I wonder often, I wonder I wonder most. I become a homing signal, an unbiblical chord. My father, a rum zero, will never add my expectations, my deepest needs, and the years divide us. She pauses and turns and looks at me and Sophia, our backs against a handball wall. I am watching for that ultramarine sky that marks when I need to be home. Nicole's eyes are asking, is my father some kind of dream, reeking of crazy and old spice, simply a distance in everything? Maybe we nod. We nod soft so she knows it's not her fault he never came back home from the liquor store. Sophia, whose father lives with his other family in Harlem, rolls her eyes, neck, sucks her teeth, inspects her hot pink polish, bites off a hangnail, then spits. He's nothing but a warm brown set of limbs, never thinking, never knowing, the appropriate measuring tool to sift his love from them to me. They clock me for my story with a silent impatience of 13-year-olds feeling fresh from sharing, and the sky is telling me to rise. I rise up, dust the street off me, and the blood flows to the pens and needles. What? I never had a father. I figured you might know. We laugh something purple from our throats. It rushes forward with many rivers, freely and deep, muddy and ready for the open.
Oh, thank you. That was so beautiful. And that line about the father being, oh, there's just a couple that just break my heart and just catch me. And so you can see, viewers, why this is such a special book, because that's not a scene that you would read in a typical memoir, and yet it's so powerful and has so many images and so much life to it. So thank you, Arisa, for sharing that. And I'm going to show off the metemgee. So we got the good, is that the good angle there, microwave boy? Yep. So you can see the let's see, plantain, white, white sweet potato, regular sweet potato, and then there is cassava in here. There's a little bit of thyme that I sprinkled on top, and the green, I don't know if you can see that.
Oh wow, yeah. That looks so yummy.
Yay. And the coconut broth. So it is supposed to be less brothy than this. It was a little bit hard for me to gauge how much water to put in, but I did make my own. I'd never made my own coconut milk, so that was part of the challenge this time. It's actually very easy. You just buy pre-shredded frozen coconut. So I went to the Indian market where they have that, and then you just blend it with water and then strain it through a strainer. And then the other thing is the cassava. So I'm going to show you what. So I saved some of. I call it. It's peel, but it's a bark. So the cassava, when you buy them, they're the shape of a long, skinny sweet potato, but they're covered with this waxy, looks kind of like bark. And then when you peel them, you actually need to get the sort of extra coating, because all of this is not edible. So I just wanted to show people what they were looking for. But it has a really, once it's boiled, it has to be boiled. You can't eat it raw or anything. It has a really wonderful waxy consistency that doesn't sound appealing, but I've just really enjoyed having it in some of these dishes. So let me just taste it real quick. So it's got, oh, and then the other thing it has, so in Guyana they would use a wiri pepper, which are hard to get here, but the very similar would be a Scotch bonnet, which sometimes you can get here, or a habanero. And you put it in whole into the broth, and so it infuses everything with this heat where it's not crazy hot, it doesn't make you sweat, but it's really more of like in the back of your throat, sort of a slow burn, which I do really enjoy. So I'm going to go ahead and taste it. Tell us where you had metemgee, what it was like, how it was served.
So it was one sort of afternoon on a walkabout around Georgetown, and it was raining so much. We went during the wet season, and we just got caught in the rain trying to find Kara's Lodge, which was also a restaurant and a garden bar. And we could not find ourselves to Kara's Lodge it was just the most difficult journey to get to this place. But finally we arrived, and when I saw that this was an option on the menu, I just immediately was like, this looks amazing. They had a picture of it, and there was fried fish on top. And so when I was served the metemgee, it was in a big white bowl, and just on top of it was a fresh fried fish. There was cassava inside. There was also a sweet potato. There was plantain, and there was these sort of dumpling things that were in there as well. There was once again a nice consistency of heat, and this was such a perfect dish to have after being in the rain, and my clothes were really drenched and my shoes were drenched, and it offered so much comfort and warmth, and the fried fish had this wonderful peppery, smoky quality to it, and it just had a real nice balance between the liquid, the broth, the coconut broth, and the crunch of the fish. I just enjoyed it so much. I actually licked my bowl.
That's awesome.
I was like, this is so good. I'm going to eat this for the rest of my life. And I had the waitress, I was like, please pronounce this for me over and over again so I can remember how to say it. And, I can still feel it going down my throat. It was just so yummy.
Such a wonderful description too. So thank you for taking us there to the restaurant. And so yeah, so it is often served with a fried, like a white fish. Some people make it with a saltfish, like a dried saltfish, as one of the seasonings. And then Althea's husband, the blogger, says that he likes his with, he calls them obstacles. So additions to the dish, that would be the fried fish, the steamed dumplings, which they call duff, which are basically kind of bread dough that's then added on top and steams up and doubles in size, or a hard-boiled egg. So those are some different ways that different families or different areas in Guyana might serve it. So there's beautiful heat. The coconut broth is a nice flavor of coconut. You can taste the onion, you can taste the hot pepper, but not too hot. I'm just going to show you kind of, so this is the regular sweet potato you would recognize. This is the cassava, so you can see that it does have kind of a waxy texture, and then you can see the plantain. So you can use green or ripe plantains. I bought these a couple weeks ago, so they started out green and now they're pretty ripe. So they don't need as long to cook, so you add the cassava first, then once it's ready, then the other vegetables. And the cassava, it has just this creamy, I don't know if waxy is the right description, but this really creamy texture once it's been boiled, and it absorbs the flavors. So it's just delicious. And thank you for introducing it to us, because Microwave Boy has enjoyed it. He's, oh, you're making that again? Because I have to make things a few times to make sure I have, really have the method down if I'm going to share it on the blog. My last question for you, do you have a favorite character or moment in the book?
I do. I guess that it would be sort of this composite character. So it's called, so the composite character is called the Rios, the romantic intimate others. So in writing the book, my editor said to me during one of the stages of the manuscript draft, she's like, there are too many people, there are too many lovers, there are too many partners that you're talking about, and we're getting really confused. And so one of the ways I dealt with that was by combining all of the lovers and calling them Rios, romantic intimate others, and Rio is also river in Spanish. And I felt like this was a kind of interesting way to then connect that to Guyana, because Guyana in Arawak means land of many waters. So the Rios sort of function as a way to get to Guyana. They are a reflective surface. They reflect back to me the things that I need to grow in myself, to heal. And so the Rio, it was sort of like my kind of fun way of solving a too many character problem, as well as then developing the motif of water in the book, and also then connecting it to the translation of Guyana.
That's beautiful. Well, Arisa, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your wonderful book and your art with the world. It's been such a treat. You'll find the recipe link in the Facebook video or on my website, migrainereliefrecipes.com, and learn more about Arisa at arisawhite.com. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend. You can order a copy of Who's Your Daddy wherever you like to buy books. If you aren't able to buy books right now, support an author by asking your local library to order their book. That also really helps us out. Follow me at sweavermph so you don't miss an episode, and join us next time for another author interview and a dish inspired by their book. Thanks so much for watching The Blue and Yellow Kitchen.